Good day, everyone, and happy Friday. So, I promised you guys that I was going to be doing something on mental health in children this week because it's Child Protection Week, and I'm supposed to be uploading the video today. But last night, myself and Keke for the mental health check in on Instagram Live, we spoke about parenting and general mental well being of children, and I just thought, the conversation was so insightful that instead of doing a video on children and mental health, that I'm just going to share the conversation that we had with you guys last night. So I hope that you will enjoy it. Please do bear with us a few times there. The connection was not really that great, but overall I think that the video is worth sharing. So I hope that you enjoy it. And yeah, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share with your friends and family if you love it.
On now.
Hi, Keke.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good, thank you.
Hello, Joyce. Yo, ke bone re filo teng ene last week o nchikile a re ke tlogela go ipoponize, that's why ne ke le late for session.
Oh, is it? No. Can she please forgive you? Because, I mean, we have to look good. Eh? Can she please? Just for No, I'm good. I'm just, I'm a bit cold. I think I'm realizing for the first time how cold my house actually is. Because usually you're at the office, by the time you come back, you take a bath, you don't even feel. So now it's like I spent the whole day here and I'm just like, what in the world? Yeah. So it's a bit hectic. Yeah. So okay, let's have a chat. So I think today's session is gonna be interesting because maybe it's low key for me because I'm freaking out a bit about my kids, how I'm raising them as somebody that suffered from the depression and self-harming. So I'm like always conscious of how am I treating them? Am I doing enough? Do I even know what I'm supposed to say to them at like a very early stage in their lives so that I can prevent certain things from happening? So I don't know. I just want to get your perspective on how early is too early and how late is too late.
I don't think there's too early when it comes to whatever conversations we need to have with our children. But
Yeah.
the difference would be the conversation that you have with your child when they are 10 is not going to be the same conversation that you have with them when they are 16. So the earlier that you start opening up the platform to have certain conversations with them, the better, but always trying to bring the content down to their level, in terms of what it is they understand. And I don't know if you know the animation movie Inside Out.
No, I actually don't.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's obviously because it's animation, it's for children, but it's about teaching them about different emotions like sadness, anger, joy, and it's also a
Yes.
tool that we use in practice with young children. But it's a great way to open up that conversation without making it a formal thing in terms of mama is struggling about something, just to get
Yeah.
them understand the basics that as a human being, as even as a child, there's different
Yeah.
emotions that you are going to feel. And I
Yeah.
think when they understand these different emotions that they feel, they would also then be able to understand it when an adult feels it, because
I
I think there's always this unspoken expectation that children must be bubbly, happy all the time, because what do they have to be sad about? And if you think about us as adults or young adults, us learning to suppress our emotions is not something that we learned when we were 10, 20. It's something that we learned from a very young age, because there was always that expectation that you must just be, as a child, always willing, available in terms of your emotions. You are not really allowed to say, hey, okay, not today, I don't want to. And if you even think about in the African culture, as a child, what is expected of you? When your parents, for instance, have visitors, né? You can't be in a bad mood when there's family, or when your neighbor has come to say hi to your mom. You are expected to just swallow whatever it is that you're going through at that time, come show up as this respectful, obedient, happy, bubbly, always laughing, hey, come and recite this poem to your uncle. That time, maybe Mwana is not even up to it. But we don't, as parents, most of the time acknowledge, for the same way that we have different emotions and feelings, and that it's healthy not to be happy all the time. It's really unrealistic to believe that as a human being, you are going to be in a good state or only feel good emotions, So,
and I think it also goes back to how we were conditioned to always be respectful. So as a child, you are seen, you are not heard, all those other things.
Definitely, like, just go be there in your corner and be a child.
How can you be depressed? How can you be sad? I bought you everything that you need to get bought. I took you to the best school. I've given you everything that this child next door doesn't have. You are ungrateful. You don't appreciate my efforts, So it does become difficult to almost like undo all of those bad behaviors, because also we learn and we inherit the behavior, and then we end up doing it without even realizing you are repeating the cycle, So my thing about, so now my child, my eldest is 3 and my youngest is 1, and sometimes they're kids, obviously they're babies, they throw tantrums, and I also lose my temper and I shout and I do whatever, but I'm always like, afterwards I feel so bad. I'm like, was I even supposed to do that? So I think I'm even more freaked out about even just doing like basic reprimanding, because I always feel like, somebody said to me that what happens between the age of 0 to 7 basically sets the type of adult you're going to be. It's behaviors and emotions that you will never be able to undo. So I want us to go deeper into that, because I feel like I never understood. I never went deeper into understanding what that means when they say that whatever happens between the ages of 0 and 7 cannot be undone. And that influences the type of adult you're going to be, how you handle your emotions, how you deal with other people and all of that. And that scares me, because now it's that my kids are at that age where anything can happen and I can feel guilty about it for the longest time. So what does that mean?
I think, it's, if you think about children, like people would always say, "Bana ka re di sponge," né? So, which means that they absorb and they take in everything that is happening around them, and like you said, we need to be, as parents, very mindful of, firstly, how we enforce or instill discipline in them, how we speak to them, and what we normalize within our homes. Because if you teach them that whenever you act sort of out of character, my response to it is that I am shouting at you, né? A child is a child, and you need to reprimand and discipline, but it's the how part. Because if you do it in a negative way, you are in turn indirectly teaching that child, this is how you do things. It's like when you come back, and it's very small things that we often overlook as parents. When you come home after a long day and you are really
Yes.
tired, I don't want to hear your voice. I don't want the singing. I don't want you jumping up and down. Ne? So you are teaching this child, home is not a safe space. Home is a place where I cannot be myself completely. So this child grows up learning this thing indirectly from you. I sort of need to suppress who I am. I need to suppress certain parts of my personality, for instance, because you would find there's children that are very out there, and as parents, we are not always in the best place, or we are not always receptive to embrace the space that the children are in that moment. So when they say it's actually 0 to 6 years, that what happens during that time frame is then during that time when that sponge ability is almost at its peak, where they are taking in every little thing that you do, that you say, how you speak to them, how you interact with each other within the household. When I come, yeah,
No, carry on.
like when something happens, am I able to run to mommy, or mommy's gonna say, hey, not now? Because when you do that in that moment without even thinking about it, the child grows up thinking, okay, when I go through certain things, or when I feel a certain way, mama is not the person then too, because this is going to be her reaction, like just what happened now in practice. It's a practical example of how you react to it. Yes, you are busy with something else, but it didn't kill you to just take a moment to acknowledge. I acknowledge your presence. I acknowledge that you are here, because if I tell you that there's something more important, remember with children, they can't put things in boxes. Do you understand? So they are not able to have that capacity to say, okay, mommy is busy with something else right now, but it doesn't mean that I am less important. So if you would have reacted in a negative way to them, it would just mean that, okay, no, I am not a priority in your life. And they grow up having this thing at the back of the head that you are not the person that I can run to when I need that security, when I need that affirmation or assurance. Okay.
Guys, you need to go that side, please. Yeah, 2 minutes. Well, it's actually like 30 minutes. But yeah, they decided they're joining in. Yeah, so I also have like this bad habit where I always say I'm busy, especially now with working from home. And then they want to show me something, and then I go, I'm busy, I'm busy. And I've realized now that they started saying that to me. When I say, please go throw this in the bin, and then they're like, I'm busy, because they've learned that that's how I am responding. So it's now part of their response as well, So it's a bit, it freaks me out, but it's difficult to like keep yourself in check 24/7 and know what to do and the right thing to do all the time. And my other question that I wanted to ask you is, how soon is too soon in terms of taking your child to go see someone when you suspect that they are not doing okay?
Yeah. I don't really have like a specific time frame in terms of saying 3 years would be too soon, because this is why we have professionals who are experts or who specialize in play therapy, because play therapy means that I can deal with a 3-year-old, but not in the same way that I would deal with a 10-year-old or a 16-year-old. So as soon as
express themselves.
Yeah, I think as soon as you realize that something is off, or something is like it's not sitting well with you, rather than dismiss it, just get that opinion so that you can also set your mind at ease to say that, okay, I did attend to this, because you might dismiss it as being a phase or as something that's going to pass, and then 10 years from the time that you saw this thing, you realize that that's actually when the problem started, And when you think mental health in children, it's a very
Guys, these girls are actually playing with my ring light. Guys, where to go? Wait, okay. Back. Okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
Like 24/7.
And I think, Oraki wo mo pele ga ka, she's also saying she wants to be in the video because Kifil is asking where's Ora. Okwatile no, because I said to no. But you see, that's the difference between a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old. As much as I feel like Okwatile no, this is a conversation that we've had before the session even started, where you explain, Mommy's going to be in a session and this is what I'm doing. So you cannot just, like pop in. Like earlier when I got back from work, I had a therapy session with someone online, and I explained to her, Mommy's gonna have a session this time. It's not the Instagram thing, so you can't just decide to pick while I'm speaking to someone. For them to understand the basics, what it is that you are doing, and it boils down actually to communication and not dismissing children because you are thinking they are too young, you don't owe them an explanation, they don't understand. Always try to bring them into your world to say, this is what is happening, this is what Mommy's going to be doing. So you can't come and speak to me for a certain time, but as soon as I'm done, I'm going to give you my full attention or attend to you. Because if you just decide, they must conclude by themselves that you are unavailable now, they might come to the wrong conclusions in terms of why you are not available for them at that time.
And okay, so I get that. My other issue is you trying to do things on your own, right? And sometimes, like you mentioned last week, that children sometimes are not comfortable with talking to their parents, but they'll open up to somebody else. In the situation where the child is going to go see a therapist and they're still not opening up to a therapist, they're not opening up to mommy or daddy, is there another solution or other interventions where you could get the child to open up and discuss what is happening with how they're feeling?
Children are very open and receptive, especially towards strangers. Like, I don't know what is it about them and their thinking that makes it so, but a lot of times when children are sort of resistant towards a professional is when something has been whispered in their ear, where I'm taking you to a professional, but Ora, when you get there, don't say anything about Mommy and what she does in the evenings, so then the child sort of becomes confused about what can I say to this person, what am I not allowed to say? Do you understand? So long before the child has gone to see this person, you've already sort of built a barrier between the child and the professional. The other thing that I also notice a lot with parents, the mistake that they make is that they take the children to a professional, but they don't explain why.
Yes.
I had a 15-year-old that I saw on Monday afternoon, and when she got there, she looked like she was just ready to burst open. She was angry. She was angry because you are dropping me off here with this person. Who is this person? What am I doing here? And one of the first questions I always ask is, what did your parents tell you about coming here? What did they tell you about me? What do you understand about why you are here? So most of the time, you as a parent, you identified a problem within the child. You don't communicate with the child that, you know what, I think you are struggling with this, or I'm just concerned about your marks at school because you haven't been performing as well. You look a bit withdrawn. And I don't know, I maybe just feel like because you can't speak to me, there's someone else that I know that you can speak of. So you actually, as a parent, need to set the tone for what is going to
Yeah.
happen when the child goes to see the professional. Because if you don't do that, then the professional just comes across as someone else, also another adult that's probably not going to understand the same way that the parents don't understand. So again, I'm going to emphasize time and again that communicating with our children is really, really so important. Like, don't take for granted that they are children and you think that you don't need to have certain conversations with them. Always be as open as possible. But
Yeah.
also in the case where a professional, remember, they also have different techniques in terms of how they are going to work with the child. Like I mentioned earlier, with your play therapist, it's not you sitting with the child and asking questions. It would be your 3-year-old coming into a room full of toys and whatever, and me as the therapist sitting there and observing what is this child going to
Yes.
do. When they take the doll, how do they speak to the doll? How do they interact with the doll? Because in most cases, you would get information from that observation. When the child
I
starts shouting,
see.
for instance, like when you're saying, you keep
Yes.
saying to your children, you are busy, and now they're also including that as part of their conversation.
They
You
go to
would maybe hear it
school.
when they play with the doll saying, sit here, I'm busy, that sort of a
Yeah.
thing. The
Yeah.
doll is just, and she's mommy and she's on her phone having an imaginary conversation, which could just say maybe the parent in this case is not really present, around the child.
Yes.
And myself as well, I'm guilty of this. A lot of times we are just on our phones talking, WhatsApping, Facebook,
100%.
what, and you just feel that the fact that I'm in the same room with you is enough, but it's not. You need to
It's
be
not. Yeah.
connected to your children. You need to be fully present in that moment or in the moment that you spend with them. But if a
Yeah.
professional doesn't work, they won't open up to you. There is bound to be someone, an aunt, a cousin. There's always someone. There really is always someone that children feel they can gravitate towards, and they are more comfortable speaking to this person. So
That
it's just
person, or
about you.
maybe somebody that you've been observing in the family that the child gravitates towards. The other issue that was playing in my mind is that often, or not often, but sometimes, you and your partner, for example, don't have the same philosophy when it comes to solving issues or problems or whatever. So it's almost like maybe your partner doesn't believe in therapy, you believe in therapy. Now the child has a problem, and you would like to take the child to a therapist, and your partner decides, no, this child is spoiled, da 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 da. It becomes then a sticky situation. Um, would you even suggest that the parent can take the child without the other parent being comfortable with it? Or because I feel like waiting to resolve issues with your partner also is now just leaving the child hanging, and you need to act. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-mm. I think, it depends on the situation and the urgency of that situation, because sometimes you, as a parent, you notice um, certain behaviors in your child that concern you, but you can maybe put it off for a while and have a conversation with your partner to say, okay, my suggestion is therapy or a professional. You are against it. So what is your suggestion? And then maybe give it a time frame to say, okay, we're going to try your method and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then we go with mine, because
You go with
therapy,
this.
remember, it's not just about the child, but it's also about the family. And I think this is also where the kind of professional that you take your child to would also
Yeah.
be a factor. Because if you take into consideration, social workers work from a person in environment perspective, which means that
Yeah.
when you come as a child, I must consider the situation that brought you to therapy within the context of the environment that you come from. Meaning it's you, It's what is happening at school. It's what's happening with your friends. It's what's happening at home. It's not just you dealing with the child in isolation, because a lot of times these other factors also influence the behavior. So if you and your partner are not in agreement about therapy, it's likely to come up in the sessions with the child to say, but at home there's this vibe or there's this tension, which sort of counters what we are trying to do in terms of helping the child. So it's very important that you and your partner are on the same page, even if they don't necessarily agree, but they say, okay, no, let's try your method and see how it works, because sometimes just dismissing and saying, no, I know what attention, they spoiled and all of this, it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. And I'm going to give you another example that I encountered a few weeks ago, where a mother called because she was concerned about the child. And then there was something that happened within the family, but the dad's reaction to what the child did was, pack your bags, I'm taking you to your grandmother's. Do you understand? And then it turned out the child was self-harming. But now, if you as a parent are dismissive to what is happening at that time, you understand that it doesn't help the child, because sending the child to the grandmother is not going to be the solution. It's not going to help them. So I think as parents also, it's about, again, communicate. Ask the child, what is it? What is wrong? Don't always assume you are just rebellious for the sake of being rebellious, or you are a teenager, therefore you are moody and you are hormonal and all of these things, because sometimes the behavior is actually an indication that there's something that is wrong. Because remember, children don't have the vocabulary that we have. I can come to you as an adult and say, Keke, I don't appreciate this and that. Please don't do it again, because this is how I feel about it. But a child not able to have that kind of conversation with you. So in most cases, what the child will do is act out. Then you will see the moods, the being rebellious, not really caring, back chatting, and all of these things. So yes, enforce discipline that we can't run away from, but always try to have a conversation in terms of what is happening beyond this behavior that I see as a parent and what could be causing it. Because if you're just going to say, get over this, fix yourself, and let's move on with life, all the child is going to do is maybe just suppress whatever it is that's going on. And maybe when you feel as a parent, everything in the house is okay, we are providing for you, we are giving you love and all of this, and then it turns out but the child is being bullied at school, because when I as a parent looked at the home environment as a factor. When you look at the home environment, everything seems to be in place. Everything seems to be in place, so therefore you don't see what could be causing the behavior. Maybe it's something outside the home. So that's why it's always important to just ask why. And if you are concerned, let the child know that I'm concerned because this is so unlike you. What is happening?
Yes. And so the other thing, I've been wondering about the three components of therapy: religion, and also, what do I call it? I don't want to say spirituality, because maybe the way we do things as Black people, like the traditional stuff that we do as I think there's a question here. My son, 11, very naughty, and when you ask him if he's been misbehaving, always says, I didn't know. This is frustrating. I don't understand why he doesn't know. Could this be hiding? Are you able to read that, Rita? Okay, so let me finish up and then we can address that. So often people are maybe like reluctant to go the therapy route because they would rather go see a traditional healer or a priest, So people are very strong in what they believe in. Sometimes they feel like, you know what, let me go see Inyanga, and they will maybe do a ritual and the child will be fine, right? And then somebody would say, Rather, let's go to a pastor and they'll pray for you and everything is going to be fine. But I think experience has taught us that not everything will work. And how do we then integrate those three in trying to help the child and the parents without diminishing the importance of all of them, the role that they play in all of in our lives?
Mm. I think find someone, a professional who's aligned to your beliefs. And when I say that, I mean if you are a Black Christian woman who values
Yes.
tradition, find a professional who is Black, who will be able to, and I'm not meaning to be racist or anything like that, but who will be able to understand certain cultural components or aspects that might influence the behavior of the child or what the cause could be. And if you are Christian, you are also allowed to, when you say you are coming to me or you are bringing your child to me, you are allowed to ask, what are you a Christian? What are your beliefs? What do you think about
Yes.
sangomas and traditional healers? And so that you can know whether you are taking your child to someone that you yourself as an adult would be comfortable with. Don't always just think professional in terms of the academic qualifications, but in terms
Yes.
of values and beliefs, this person that you are bringing your child to, because remember, that person is going to have an influence on your child. They're going to
Yes.
sort of plant certain
Problem
seeds
solving.
in your child, and you want to
Yes.
make sure that this person is going to plant seeds that align with what you are also trying to teach your child. So a Christian
Yes.
professional would be able to bring in the spiritual, religious aspect to how they work with the child, without losing the professional component, but also not losing what the parents at home believe in. Even if
Yes.
after the session on Sunday, you taking the child to your pastor or reverend or whatever the case may be, so that the child is not talking to different people saying different things. Do you understand? Because at the
Yes.
end of the day, Muruti and the Christian professional speak from the same sort of perspective. So you try to find someone who aligns with what you already believe in, so that you are also not feeling like, but if I don't believe in traditional healers and I take my child to a professional who believes in these things, and then they say, no, but your child doesn't have bipolar, your child has a ancestral gift. Yeah, no, when you
Gift.
are sitting there thinking, what is this person? Because I didn't take my child to go find out these things, and I'm not open to having this kind of
Having
conversation.
problems.
Do you
Yeah.
understand? So, but when you know upfront, then you are at least able to make an informed decision. And I think this is, maybe just stepping away a bit from our topic tonight, this is something a lot of people are not aware of, because when they look for a professional, they look for, oh, you've got a master's in clinical psychology, or you've got a master's in clinical social work, great, you are the person I'm looking for. Kanti, maybe in terms of my values and my beliefs, I am not the right fit for you. It doesn't mean that as a professional I'm not equipped, but I'm just not the right fit for you in that moment, because there's going to be certain clashes, even as far as the techniques that the professional uses. You are allowed to ask beforehand, before you even book your session. So tell me, what theories, what framework do you use in dealing with your clients, and how does this influence, like what type of techniques do you use and things like that? Because you will find that maybe I use hypnosis and it's not something that you are comfortable with, because you think, now you are going to put my child under hypnosis, and then they're going to say things that I don't want the world to know, that I don't want you as the therapist to know. I only want you to deal with the child. So asking questions is very important. Don't just take it for granted gore motho went to school and they qualified and therefore they can do the work. No, it doesn't work like that.
So you would almost say, as a parent, you would then need to have your own session with the professional, just clearing that air and making sure they're the right person before bringing your child in.
I would
Okay, great.
recommend that.
Okay. So, okay, let's address Yandisa's question about her son, who's 11 and very naughty. And she says that he misbehaves and always says he doesn't know why he does. But she then gets obviously frustrated. And could he be hiding something? So what is being naughty and what is hiding something? Because I think also some of us parents, we miss that tipping point where there is something more, but we're just thinking, oh, this child is so naughty. How do we know when to then intervene and take our child to go see someone or have a different conversation? And how do we start that conversation in this situation where she is just frustrated?
I think go with your gut feeling in terms of when I, as a parent, what do you think is happening in that moment? Because it's difficult because for one, we don't know what misbehaving is. Is misbehaving not taking instructions, not doing what you're supposed to do? Is misbehaving taking 2 rand from my wallet when I'm not watching? It could be a lot of things, and you as the parent would then know. Um, in terms of this thing, I feel like I don't know. I'm not sure if he's hiding anything, but I don't think it's just a child being naughty or misbehaving. There could be something deeper to this. Then you could always speak to a professional that works with children, like a child psychologist or play therapist, to maybe do an assessment. An assessment doesn't mean that I am committing to taking my child for sessions. You just want to know if there is something that is wrong, and also just watching who your children is associating with or hanging out with, because sometimes you are frustrated as a parent and you might be looking very close to you in terms of what the issue is and what they could be hiding, and then you find that your child is actually just being overpowered by the influence of peers around them. It's not that Ora has a behavior issue, but Ora has the wrong friends, and because Ora has the wrong friends, they keep whispering little things in her ear that makes her do the wrong things. And that's why when I try to have a conversation with her in terms of why are you behaving like this? Why are you doing this? Because mommy explained to you that I don't like it when you do this. I don't want you to do this. Then Ora doesn't have anything to come back with in terms of this is where I'm coming from and this is why I did this, because maybe it wasn't even her idea to start with. Again, when we think about children being the sponges, we need to understand that not sponges in terms of they only absorb what is happening in the home, but they also absorb what is happening outside the home.
Yeah.
And this is something that I'm very sensitive with, especially like when you're raising a child, Moeca, because you try to raise your child in a certain way, but unfortunately you cannot stop them from interacting with other children from different backgrounds. And sometimes you would hear it in conversation that, oh, when you've been in the streets, because what you are talking about now is not something that you saw in the house or that you've heard me talk about. So maybe just also look at external influences and try to question them in terms of how much do they know regarding the ability to stand up for yourself, the ability to say no, because when they don't have that knowledge, they don't have that firm grounding, it's easy for them to be influenced by other children or have conversations with other children at school where the other one will tell you, nah, I opened my mother's safe and I did this, because children are mischievous by nature and they get up to a lot of no good, and sometimes what the things that they do is what they hear in conversations with other children. Now, when I was at home, this is what I did. So they are also going to go try it out. But you don't know why you are doing this thing. You just wanted to be able to go back to their friends and say, I also did this. But if she feels that the conversation is not really getting anywhere, maybe involve someone else. It doesn't even have to be a professional, but somebody else within the family, maybe like a younger brother, sister, somebody that the child would feel they are able to relate to, that they can ask questions, that they can have an open conversation that's not confrontational, but to try and get information in terms of what it is that they're doing. And I also want to just ask her how the child is doing at school, in terms of academic performance, behavior in the classroom. Has the teacher said anything about concentration levels, the ability to focus, to sit still, to take in a lesson? Because sometimes, especially with children who have ADHD, they are all over the show. You, as a parent, you will have a hard time controlling, like, sit, don't do this. You tell them don't do this, and then 2 minutes later they do the exact thing that you told them to do. So I'm not implying anything, but I'm just giving different possibilities and avenues that she can explore, the school also being one, because if there is something huge, usually it would also show in terms of school, in the behavior of the child and their grades. You would be able to pick up
And then
if there's something that's
so
going on.
how do you deal with a situation where the behaviors of the child is like contrasting behaviors, where the child at home is like hyperactive, naughty, all these funny things, and then they get to school and they are well behaved, they are performing in class, they are, perfect almost. Or they are the other way around, where at home they're perfect and at school they're misbehaving. Is that something to look into, or is it just one of those things where children will behave differently in different scenarios? Or should they be consistent where they are behaving in the same way so that you're able to piece when something is going wrong?
No, I'm just like thinking back to my time in high school and the person that I was in school. I think if my mom had gotten messages from school at the time, she would have probably killed me. I wouldn't be here today, because who I was at school was your complete havoc. And at home, I was your ideal child because I was so afraid of my mom. And, she was your typical black mother. She didn't take any nonsense. But I think as a parent, look at, say, if the child is behaving at school but not at home, look at the boundaries in terms of how you discipline the child. What boundaries have you put in place as a parent, and how consistent are you in enforcing discipline? Because what we do as parents, today Ora does something that is wrong, and I reprimand and I tell her that I don't like it. 3 days later she does the same thing, but because I'm also dealing with my own things, or I'm tired, or I have a deadline, I'm busy with something else, I overlook it. So you see what this thing is doing. I'm being inconsistent and I'm communicating mixed messages to the child. So the one day, the same behavior according to you as mommy, it's wrong. The other day, when I do it because I want your attention or I'm pushing your boundaries, you don't say anything. So as parents, we also need to watch ourselves in terms of, are we being consistent in how we instill discipline? If I don't like it today, I shouldn't like it 3 days later. I shouldn't like it next month. And again, I'm going to go back to the phone thing, because I saw a lot of people commenting that they are guilty of this. And if you think about different setups where I would be visiting Refilwe. Now, me and Refilwe are having this intense adult conversation. Ora wants to come and sit next to us. What do? I give her the phone. Like, go do whatever. Like, just keep busy. And then when we get home, she wants the phone. But because Refilwe isn't there, I'm not going to give the phone. So what is it exactly? Is me having your phone wrong, or is me having your phone something that is acceptable within our relationship as mother and child? So you are, with these mixed signals, you are also confusing the child, and this is where you see that children then start to push boundaries. They push your boundaries because they want to see where your limits are as a parent. So it's always important that, as frustrating and as tiring as it can be, that you remain consistent in the things that you say no to, and the things that you say yes to. Don't chop and change depending on the situation and how you feel, because then they don't know what it is that they are supposed to take from what you are saying.
I think Homo is asking here about different punishment for children that are misbehaving. I think she probably wants to know what is going too far in terms of, things like naughty corner. A lot of people will say, oh, I use the naughty corner all the time and it works wonders. But some people will say it's not good for their mental health because you are teaching them to, I don't know, so many other things. So there are so many opinions, but what is advisable that is healthy, ways that you can instill discipline without going too far? Because I always thought the naughty corner was fine, and you put them in a naughty corner, they must think about it, and then once they cool down or stop throwing it in, and tell them why you put them in a naughty corner. But my husband is completely against it. He says that he feels like it's traumatizing the child and it's going to create emotional and mental problems later on when they're older. So can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, Keke, disciplining children is a very touchy, sensitive subject, and it's one of those things like I talk a lot of things, but then there's also things that I shy away from, because I also never want to put myself across as being an expert on things that I myself struggle with or that I'm not comfortable with, So I think as a parent, do what works for you, but within certain limits, of course, One, I would say the labels that we put on, for instance, if you're going to use the naughty corner, you can use that, but I would say don't call it the naughty corner, because already when you say naughty corner, the label is a negative one, and it's already communicating to the child that you are naughty, you are wrong, like all these negative things that you wouldn't want your child to internalize, I think it was at Ora's ECD that. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can hear you breaking every now and then.
Oh, so, I was saying that where Ora went to crash, they had the naughty. They didn't call it the naughty corner. Ne? When the child was sent to the naughty corner, they would say you must go sleep. So every time home, and she would tell me, but Yena, she was told to go sleep while the other children were watching TV. And after a while, like, I got concerned that, but why is the teacher discriminating against my child? Because why are the other children watching TV, but when you were told to sleep? And then it turned out that no, she was misbehaving at school, so she was put by the naughty corner. But the naughty corner was not you sitting there facing the wall, with your legs folded. They actually had like a nice.
Go lie down and think about it.
Go think about what you were doing. So they actually had like because I went to the school and I saw this. They had like a nice those small mattress with a blanket and everything. And so when you misbehave, instead of naughty, which would be like a negative label that you would then place on the child, you just tell them very nicely, just go sleep there while the other child watching TV, because you did this and that you are not supposed to go do, so you must go rest for a little bit, So the child would know that if I misbehave, there is a form of punishment, but they're not really seeing it as punishment in that negative sense. I don't know if I'm making sense, So we need to be very careful of the labels that we put on children, and for those of you who are Christian and who are believers, we know what they say about the power of the tongue. Ne? The power of life and death lies in the tongue. So if I want life, I must speak life. And this thing, you are just like your dad, why are you doing this and this and that? And then the child is growing up every time hearing you are just like your dad. Then you wonder at 16 why the child is like the dad, because all they've ever heard growing up was that you are just like your dad. So labels are very dangerous in the sense that
Yeah.
research has shown that the labels that we give on people or that we place on people actually reinforces negative behavior. So if you are
Sure.
naughty and I want you to stop the naughty behavior, I should not keep telling you that you are naughty, because it just reinforces this label that I've placed on you. And then the child starts being naughty to live up to this name that you've sort of given. You understand? So number one, in disciplining, watch out for the language that you use. Don't use negative labels that children can end up internalizing, and then this also affects their mental emotional well-being, because now they see themselves as naughty, and because they see themselves as naughty, they are going to go look for other ways to even be like live up to this thing. I get you saying that I'm naughty, so I'm gonna find ways to live up to this label that you have given me as a parent. So that's the first thing. Second thing is refrain from disciplining in anger, in a moment of anger. Because when you are angry, you are not thinking straight. Then you think to the child, then you end up giving a punishment that doesn't fit the offense, because you are so angry, you are not thinking straight. So you give punishment, but the punishment is in excess if you consider what the child has actually done. It's the same also. I know the constitutional court says not to hit children, but if you spank the child to say, no, don't do that, do you understand? I don't believe that there's anything wrong with it. But if I am fuming as a parent because I found that you drew on my white couch, in that moment, that is not the time to spank, because the force that I'm going to use is going to be a reflection of the level of anger that I'm feeling in that moment. So then it borders on abusive towards the child. So if you are very angry, rather walk away and then come back later to say, Ora, let's come and talk about this thing. You did this and that. Like sometimes, Ora would make me so angry that I just feel like if I hold you now, I don't know what I'm going to do to you. In those moments, then I just decide, you know what, I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to go outside or go to the next room. I'm going to be quiet. And then she'll come. I guess she's going to feel bad. Then she comes and she wants to talk to me and apologize. But then I just tell her, but I'm not ready now. When I'm ready, then we are going to deal with this thing. And when I'm calmer, I'm able to say, you know what you did? You really upset me because I told you time and again, don't do this thing, but you went ahead and did it. So in a moment of anger, to refrain from immediately, because then you just sort of make the situation worse. And I think lastly, I want to say reinforcement and punishment works very well. It works even with adults. It works, like even with Kevin, you can do it. Where if you're doing something that I like, that I'm proud of, there's going to be a reward. If you do something that I don't like, there's going to be a withdrawal. So the earlier the children learn that negative actions have consequences, nobody likes to be punished. Nobody likes not to feel pleasure. And this starts from a very early age. It shows that we are inclined and gravitate towards things that give us pleasure, that make us feel pleasure. So if a child learns, when mommy tells me to come home at 4 and I don't do that, then I don't get to watch TV that evening. I don't like that feeling. Né? So you learn that negative action has a negative consequence. Therefore, I shouldn't do this again because I want to watch TV. I want to feel good. I want to have my phone. If they misbehave, take away that phone. And don't take it away and then tomorrow, because you are in a good mood and you got a promotion and a retire coach and you had a nice conversation, now you give the phone back. But you said, I'm taking the phone for a week. Do you understand? Because what are you teaching them? when I didn't take you seriously when you enforce discipline
There's no
because you don't even
consistency.
you don't even adhere to your own um what rules. So if you
Rules,
say I'm taking it away for a week, stick to that week, even if you see them, because I know sometimes then they sit in there, that
looking
puppy
cute.
face, and you're feeling sorry for them. Don't do it. Don't do it. And sometimes disciplining our children hurts us more than it hurts them, but be consistent and stick to it so that you can get results out of what you are trying to achieve with your child.
Yes. No, awesome. Thank you so much. This was very insightful. And sure, I have a lot to work on myself, which is great because at least I've got like notes and I know where to start. So next week is our last session, isn't it? We're doing our last
Mm.
episode. So I think let me ask the guys if you guys want to know more about anything to do with mental health, send questions to me or Rita, and we will discuss those next week, and maybe we can go more into the different types of mental health because I think we've only been discussing basic mental health, anxiety, like the lighter things. Maybe next week we can close with the more hardcore stuff and how people are able to identify those and what steps they can take, who they can contact, and so forth. And then, yeah.
Okay. Keke,
Thank
before we
you.
close, I just want to go back quickly to what
Yeah.
you said in the beginning about the foundation that we set for our children, like between the ages of 0 and 6 years, and what you said about what happens during that time is irreversible. Ne? I just want to add so that we're not leaving people. There's somebody maybe listening that's going to feel like, yo, my child is 8 and I didn't really start off on the right track because I didn't know then what I know now. Don't
Wow.
feel despondent and don't now go into this guilt, be consumed by guilt to say that you sort of ruined the foundation for the child. Because as much as we are not able to reverse, we are also able to override, meaning that if the first 4 years of the child's life didn't go according to plan, I didn't discipline or have open conversations the way that I should. I didn't handle issues in the way that I could have. I didn't do better. The minute that you are aware of where the gaps are and you try working on them, you can start building on new memories, I want to call it, that will eventually then have more
Be the
power
highlight.
over, be the highlight. So in the bigger scheme of things, I might have had a terrible childhood from 0 to 5 years, but all I remember as an adult is that, from the age of 8, my mom was, or my parents were the best thing since sliced bread because they were always available. I remember we used to have conversations, we spent quality time together. So you can override, that foundation if you feel that it was a bit rocky. So I just wanted to say to the parents, don't be despondent if your child is now over 6 or 7 and you are feeling like, yo, I've
I've
created
ruined
a
it.
monster and
Yes.
I can't take it back. You can't take it back, but you can do better going forward. That's eventually also going to be as helpful to your child in making sure that you raise and build a whole individual that hopefully will not have to deal with the things that we dealt with, coming into adulthood because of some of the things that our parents did when we were younger. So I just wanted to
Yes.
just add on that note so that people are not feeling too sad about the past.
Yes. Yeah. I'm also thinking about myself. I'm like, yo, what was life like from age 0 to 7, But I guess it's, you won't remember much, but it's like built into your subconscious. And,
Mm,
I think that there's power in that, knowing that, you are molding a young mind and you need to be careful of what you're saying and always, lead from a place of, trying to love that child and giving them the best. But thank you so
definitely.
much, Rita. Great
Good
talk.
night.
Let's catch up again next week. And we'll finish up. Hi, Ora. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm good, thanks. Oh my gosh, you guys look alike so much. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, we've got 20 seconds remaining. Instagram is kicking us out. Yeah, today is like we've gone longer than we ever have, which was great because I think the
Yeah.
kids section is always like so